Well, Bethany, welcome to the DFL Daily. Thank you for joining us. This Saturday, working people will be marching in solidarity with their neighbors. Labor showed up in amazing ways during ICE's occupation of our state at the beginning of this year. What are you most proud of in labor's organized resistance, and what does it say about this moment that labor and democracy activists are showing up together?
Well, I am most proud of the way that people showed up, really understanding why they were showing up. I think all of us witnessed the cruelty, the harm, the violence that was perpetrated on our communities. And one thing we identified really early was that there was an outrage, but also a frustration with knowing that it was wrong, but not always having the words. And one thing we worked hard on within labor, and we heard from so many unique union members, so many unions across the state, is why what was happening was against their values, against what they believe needed to happen as a group of organized working people, right? Uh, Due process matters. The rule of law matters. Cruelty has no place in criminal justice or immigration reform or immigration enforcement. And being able to be really clear about those things allowed us to move powerfully and purposefully in mutual aid, in patrol, in support of infrastructure, in organizing protests, in showing up with clear demands, right? Both at our state capital as well as federally. So I'm very proud of the good work people did to bring some rigor to the moment, even though we were all flooded with emotion and anger and frustration and overwhelm by the constant and ongoing onslaught of pain that was inflicted upon our communities. And when it comes to democracy and labor, labor is democracy. People too often don't understand that in the same way that a free press is an important element of democracy, an organized labor movement is an important element of democracy. People who think that, unions only need to exist 50 years ago don't understand that they're really encouraging wealth inequality. They're encouraging the degradation of democracy in action. Unions are democracy in the workplace. It's people coming together, electing leaders, sitting down, determining priorities, and saying, we're going to go have those folks negotiate on our behalf. That's collective bargaining. It is democracy. So there's no daylight between labor and democracy. It is democracy in the workplace versus democracy in the streets or democracy at the Capitol or in our polling places. We believe in democracy in all those places. And labor activists, trade unionists show up and do that every day.
That's fantastic. We've been seeing that the more the Trump administration makes life unaffordable, the more support they lose. How are you seeing that play out among working people? Do folks feel like promises were broken to them?
I think no matter who you supported in whatever election, there is a clear understanding that our dollars don't go as far as they need to. That people, even people who considered themselves middle class, upper middle class, right? They're having to make choices that people who had the same type of careers 10, 15, 20 years ago didn't have to make because we have seen this wealth inequality just skyrocket. So are people feeling betrayed? Absolutely. Is that specific to Trump? I mean, he's a prime example. I think that that man will say anything to gain and control power, even though he has very little integrity about following through or actually caring about people. And we know that it happens on both sides of the aisle, right? We've got deep friendships in labor with the DFL. That doesn't mean that any politician is perfect or without frame, and we need all of our politicians fighting for actually showing up at those words. Like Melissa Hortman would say, let's fucking go. And we need to see that. We need to live that. And as much as Trump betrays all of the things he says by his actions, we know that anyone who isn't working on affordability right now needs to get their act together.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've all experienced as Minnesotans is this unrelenting retribution campaign Donald Trump and his allies have been waging on Minnesotans, and specifically at times on working folks here in this state. What's an attack that working Minnesotans are feeling right now that hasn't made the front page that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I unfortunately there are a lot, right? I mean, when we think about just the hollowing out of government, these are core services that when people need them aren't going to be there. I grew up in Granite Falls, Minnesota. We had an F4 tornado the day before I turned 16 years old. If FEMA wasn't there, if the National Guard wasn't there, right? Um, I think we think about what's going on with RFK Jr.'s horrific dismantling of our public health system. That's going to have outcomes for years and years to come. People who are trying to have their family members have access to cancer treatments, have access to life-saving, research. And as much as the statements are made, right, about this is how it's going, I think when people's real lives are impacted of like, hey, I worked my whole life, so I would have health insurance, so I would have Medicare. And all of a sudden, the research just stops. The hospital systems are overwhelmed. There aren't opportunities to access care, which is happening again and again across the state. And it's going to get worse. We know that those things are connected. We need to connect those dots.
Our message of the week here is a, I think, a simple and clear message, but one that is being proven true over and over again, and that is Minnesotans are the heroes. When it comes to the ice surge in Minnesota, it was everyday Minnesotans who stood up, stood together, and really fought to make sure that we protected our community, set up mutual aid networks, et cetera. This Saturday at the No Kings rally, we're going to be talking about working Minnesotans, not politicians or special interests, but working Minnesotans, and the fact that they are the heroes. What would you say to someone who is inclined to participate but feels that this is too much of a political thing, this rally this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, our lives are political. And anyone who's ever been on the wrong side of a judgment, who's had a law that's made their life harder, who's had something taken away from them, even though somebody down the street might be able to get it, knows that whether we like it or not, how we show up in community, whether we show up in community, how we protect our democracy, it's all political. So it comes down to what are your values and are you willing to get out of your own way? I would really just encourage people who think that our communities need to be stronger. If you don't want to show up to No Kings, okay, find a lane and go. Figure out what you do want to show up for and put some effort in because no one's going to hand you a community to be proud of. We have to show up for each other. And I'm so proud of the Minnesotans who have done that. I think we're going to see record community engagement at this No Kings protest because people have shown and felt the power of community and solidarity, right? Like, not just I'm going to help out, but I know this is in my self interest. I know if they can come for them, they can come for me. I know that we need to show up for each other now so that if I ever need help, right? Like this is the type of community that I'm not just showing up for, but that I'm raising my kids in, that I'm supporting as I move into whatever next chapter I have. And so people have a choice to make, right? They have a choice to make about what type of community they want. And folks who are sitting on the sidelines in this moment have very little interest to me in terms of what's going to happen next. We need engaged folks. We need to listen to folks. If people want to show up and just be heard, I respect that. But in general, people saying this is too political or I'm not sure if that's right. You know what? If this isn't right for you, what is? Right? Answer that question for yourself. Find a lane, go.
Fantastic. Well, Bethany Winkels with the AFL-CIO, thank you for being with us today. I just want to say personally, throughout this whole last year that I've been chair, I have seen the AFL-CIO and labor show up repeatedly in community, leading efforts to make sure that Minnesotans have what they need in order to stand up for themselves and for their neighbors. And so I just, a deep sense of gratitude from me to you and to all of your labor brothers and sisters who are doing this work day in and day out. I just want to say we see you, we see it, the impact you're having, and thank you so much for all the work that you're putting into this weekend and beyond.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Looking forward to seeing you in the streets and in the halls of power and anywhere else where working people's voices should be.
All right. We'll see you Saturday. Thank you.